Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Welcome, Pekka Kallioniemi. Am I saying that correctly?
Yes, I mean you're Estonian, so you can say it perfectly. It sounds very Finnish.
In Estonia, like they have this soft L, like Kallioniemi, but it's Kalli, right? The
It's
other L,
a bit hard, yeah. Kallioniemi.
the Kallioniemi.
Uh,
So you are the guy who makes Vatnik soup.
I am that guy. Yes.
Ooh, damn. And if a viewer don't know, I'm sure most of them know, but if you don't know, Vatnik soup is what it sounds like. It's Western politicians are known people in the world, and you open up their pro-Russian connections, Kremlin connections, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. For example, Gerhard Schröder and his adventures with the Stasi agents and Nord Stream pipelines and this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I have a ton of questions about that already. And recently I saw you, like, we're talking about Finnish pro-Russians, which is a rare sight in my eyes, but they do exist.
They
And
live in
I watched
exile.
it and oh yeah, and I mean, you must have gotten some backlash from from somebody because of it, or from these guys at least, saying like, "Oh, we're not pro Russia, we're pro Finland." Da, 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 or
Yeah, they're the most patriotic guys ever. When if you ask them.
oh yeah,
We only think about Finland. Finland is like we are patriots and we just want to be friends with Russia because they will never go away and blah blah blah. You know how it is. Probably it's same in Estonia.
oh yeah. I mean, yeah, Finland has this party. Was it Perus or Perun? Perus, the
Perussuomalaiset,
native
Finns.
Perussuomalaisen. Yes, it's like a native Finnish party or something.
Yeah, but I wouldn't call them in any way like pro-Kremlin. They had one person, Mika Niikko, who was like pro-China, pro-Kremlin, but nowadays it's they are extremely supportive of Ukraine. And one of their what is it called, politicians, he actually speaks Ukrainian, and he went to speak at the Ukrainian parliament. Rada. So yeah, I wouldn't call them, but there's another very small party called Vapaudeliitto, I think. It's like a freedom union or something in English, and they are the friends of Russia, the big patriots, and that's basically where they all are now. There used to be another party called in English Power to the People, Valta kuuluu kansalle. But it kind of broke down because of internal conflicts, and they were also, I mean, many of them actually went to Russia after the full-scale war started, and so on. So
What a coincidence, because in Estonia we have this party called EKRE, which is Estonian Conservative People's Party, and they're like, "Oh, we're super blue, super Estonian, we're most pro-Estonian party, blue, black, and white, only Estonian language." And every time they speak, they speak Kremlin talking points with the
what?
blue, black, and white like coding to it. It's like, what the hell? And they broke down, by the way. They had this internal strife, so they broke into two parties now. And what a coincidence that it happens like 2.5 years after the full-scale invasion began, like Russian pro-Russian parties breaking down in the West.
Yeah. And I think there's it's like with these parties, there's always some people who aren't like fully into this Kremlin propaganda, and then there's those people, like handful of people who go just all in, like all NATO expansion, biolabs, everything, Nazis in Ukraine. They go with every all these narratives, and at some point they clash, and then you have this kind of separation, or you divide into smaller parties. And I think what is most incredible to me is that uh, these parties often think that they will get a lot of votes, which they don't. I mean, usually it's like maximum 2%. Uh, and it's like they are very optimistic about the outcome of every election, and every election they lose.
Yeah, it has been the same here also. They've been losing ever since the full-scale invasion. We have another party called Keskerakond, which is a central party, something like that. And they were, if you would make a Vatnik soup in Estonia, you would talk about them all the time. Kremlin connections, building a church with their money. And even they started to break up. There was like an internal coup after the full-scale invasion. So like we can see clearly in Estonia, like the dominoes falling, like Syria fell. Like in Estonia, it has been happening for a long time.
Mm. You have the I've read about this is Ivo Petersen or something. The,
Well, he is on another level. He has treason accounts. I think he's in jail right now, and he's gathering like the bail money from the people, pro-Russian people in Estonia, like $20 at the time, 20 euros at the time, and it's 150 grand he has to pay the government to get out. And people are donating, like pensioners are donating to him. It's crazy.
yeah, and I read that he got over 10,000 votes at the European Parliament election. So it's that's a lot of votes for one person. And
He pretty much consolidated every Estonian, like every super Putinist person in Estonia, like all of them. He managed to do it, and is being charged with treason. And of course,
yes.
they vote for him. Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on in Estonia right now, and we're starting a project about the Baltics, so it's very interesting to hear like what's going on from a local perspective, like what's going on. And also there was this case of breaking windows of politicians' cars, and it was paid by the Kremlin, right? I think there was a story on the Insider about this.
it is, and like it's bad that they do this in Estonia, but it's also really good because it shows like that's the maximum effect they have in Estonia. Because immediately after that was done, the person who did it was arrested. They found out who ordered it from Moscow, like from Russia. I mean, the internal police found out everything, and it's like the good thing is we see that they're quite good at rooting out the pro-Russian like connections in Estonia, and there's not that much anymore actually,
Mm.
or the ones who are like some people who work in Kapo, Kaitsepolitsei, or defensive police in Estonia, like they have told me how what methods they use. There's no secret methods. What they use is as soon as they know somebody like is even talking about like to Russians in Russia to like undermine Estonian security, all they do is they call the guy or go and knock on his door and say, "We know what you're doing. Here is like the out what you have done. Here's the photo of it. We're watching you. We're not doing anything. We know we're watching. And if you make anything that gives us a need to act, we're going to send you out of the country." And then they go away. And what do you know? Some of them leave the country, others stop what they're doing.
Yeah, and that's very effective way of working. And I also I read the story, and there was this like a domino effect. So this guy was hiring someone else, like a criminal, and then they hired someone else, and then they hired someone else, and in the end, it was just like a really low level criminal or a drug addict who agrees to actually do the deed, and the money just trickles down. Uh, but yeah, it's
That's how it was actually. I think they sent like several tens of thousands from Russia, and in the end, the Estonian guy who did it was like not Estonian, but he was Russian, and he was like a drug addict, alcoholic. He needed the money. He got like a few grand. The rest of it trickled like Russian way. It got lost.
yeah, and
Yeah.
the rest of the guys did nothing. It just went down the hierarchy. All right, but
Yeah.
that's
So
interesting. Oh.
you see that like they the horrible way of I don't know if you have the word paradak in Finland, but it's like the Soviet way of doing things. It's like the least effective way of doing it. Like just get it done somehow. That's the way they do like this sabotage also.
We have this saying that the Soviet way of working is that one guy is shoveling something and 10 other guys are watching around and watch. So
It is like that. I mean, still, like a lot of the builders in Tallinn or in Estonia are like Russian speaking. They're Estonians, but like they have this mentality still. And you see it on the streets, like a lot of Russian loud noises coming out of a construction site. You go and watch, and one guy, Ivan, is doing the shoveling. The rest of them are smoking or changing the radio channels, talking about it. And
uh,
they all get paid.
you
Yeah.
have some beer cans somewhere close by, and
Exactly. It is a completely different way of doing things, and it's like the Ukrainian meme is we're just lucky they're so goddamn stupid.
no, that's true. Um, but
But
how
I
the
mean I
oh.
don't want to. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, we just wanted to ask you, how do you see the situation right now with Syria and I mean, what's going on in Ukraine? There's a big, huge, probably the biggest meat grinder going on right now, right? With
I
Russian
mean, yeah,
soldiers.
I've been I covered Syria for the last entire week, pretty much in all of my videos. Like the majority of it was Syria because, like, in my eyes, it's Russo-Ukrainian war just fought somewhere else because it's all
Yeah,
Russian
yeah, yeah.
assets. Um, it happened so goddamn fast throughout the weekend. I mean, I came to work on Monday. I kept my eye on during the weekend, but I'm not working during the weekend, and it was a hard weekend to sleep and rest because so much was happening. And I mean, you do these updates. You know this feeling when your fingers are like, I want to tweet or do something.
Yeah, yeah, and then you kind of have to think: is this validated information? Is it confirmed, and so on? So you don't do something that you actually try to fight against. But I mean, it was like 11 days. Everything happened in the span of 11 days, and it was just crazy. Uh, Damascus falling and everything, all that, and of course the horrible things that are now. Is it Sednaya, or what's the name of the prison?
I think yes, at Naya, something like that. Yeah,
Mm. But I mean,
and I'm up. Yeah.
it was a really, I think, like, to me it seems like it was the one of the worst dictatorships in recent history, like what they did, and that they had these iron like presses for getting rid of the corpses and everything. It's just I mean, it's a good thing that the dictatorship fell, but I'm also a little bit worried what comes next. But there's hope.
I mean, yeah, now the main thing, I don't have the latest information, but today I saw a report that the rebels are giving Russians 48 hours to get out of Khomeini and Tartus. I don't know if it's true,
Mhm.
unconfirmed, but if it is true, then Russians will lose like a heavy amount of assets, like almost all of it, because you cannot get stuff out so fast.
Mm. Did their boats or already leave, or vessels, or whatever they're called, from the
I mean,
ports?
some of them left, but I'm not sure they're going to lose these boats. They can leave anytime anyway. I don't
Mm.
think they are allowing rebels to take them over, but like they have hundreds of tanks and BMPs and weapons and ammunition, all of that intelligence on all across Syria that they cannot funnel into this one port in the 48 hours.
Mm.
I mean, I know they're trying to cut a deal with the rebels to be allowed to withdraw all of that stuff to Ukraine. I'm kind of hoping it doesn't happen. If it does, it's possible. But if it's true, it's 48 hours. It's a massive loss. I mean, comparable to like taking back Kharkiv with hundreds of vehicles captured, stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, that would be actually, it would be great. Let's hope that the I mean, the Kremlin will probably offer a lot of money for kind of safe passage out of Syria, but let's hope it's not happening.
Yeah, I mean, it's so weird. Like, I'm so much in this conflict that people sometimes ask in Estonia, like, who just look at the random headline and that's all they know about it. It's like, oh, Syrian war began. It's so bad. War again in another part of the world. And I'm like, wow, 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 hey, it's very good for Estonians. I mean, Russians are losing assets. And they look at me weird, like, what is wrong with you? You're a psychopath. I mean, it's war.
Yeah,
But
there's
if you,
people
like,
dying. Yeah, but
yeah, I mean, but it's the right kind of people.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. And people. No, no, no. That's a joke. But I mean,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it is just the reality where we live in right now. So I mean, I have clearly chosen a side, and I suppose you also have. We are extremely biased in all this, but I
Hmm.
think for me, it's ultimately it comes to the kind of who invaded who uh, kind of question. So Russia is this extremely aggressive imperialistic nation that kind of that uses extreme oppression against its against smaller nations, and I feel like this needs to be fought. And when you look at what they did also in Syria, like the last thing the Russians did in Syria was bombing hospitals. I think that's quite telling of how they operate. So, like the like 5 days before they everything happened, like everything collapsed, they were still bombing hospitals, and they were always like doing these double tap strikes of bombing humanitarian aid workers and doctors and so on. So just the way that Russia wages war is extremely brutal and barbaric, and I think everybody should kind of fight against this. And I mean, it's just horrible.
But I mean, you you in Finland. I mean, you. I don't want to go into this. Oh, we're like top-notch guys who are risking their lives. No, but you do anger a lot of pro-Russian people with your Vatnik soup. They get a lot of attention, like millions, maybe some tens of millions of views on X. How do you feel about your safety?
Mm, I think everybody who kind of becomes somebody in the scene has to prepare. So I have prepared for um various scenarios. Of course, as probably you have also, like you try to kind of uh, keep your secrets. But I mean, if we start being afraid all the time, it'll at least it'll affect my work. So I don't wanna think about it too much. I wanna prepare as well as I can with the networks that I have. But if I start becoming paranoid or becoming afraid, if I become afraid, I think it'll affect my work and eventually uh, it'll be very difficult to continue doing it. So I try not to give too much into the fear. But yeah, I'm prepared, definitely.
Okay. It sounds very ominous. Like I have a very special set of skills, Liam Neeson style.
Yeah,
I
but I
will
mean,
find you.
and since the beginning, I've been called being the asset of CIA. So I'm just playing that role right now. NATO is a big part of CIA. So I think we just have to go with that.
I mean, I am so sad that I don't get my paycheck. I would love to. I'm still waiting for the paycheck from CIA.
Just
Come
check
on,
your
you're late.
Bitcoin wallet. It's there. You just have to. But I mean, it's uh, because Russians, just like the Soviets, they have very hard time coming up with anything new. So it's always the CIA. It has to be the CIA. If there's something that's very effective against their bullshit, it is the CIA. It is the US. It is NATO, and so on. So of course, it was just a natural way, natural progress that once social or like civil society movement, social media movement became very effective against their disinformation campaigns. It was, of course, CIA. So I think that was expected. But
It's great validation for like organization that organizes itself and public movement volunteers. It's great validation that the enemy thinks that we are like this best secret service in the world. It's great validation for us.
extremely secretive, yeah. Also,
I am a NAFO lieutenant major, whatever.
yeah.
Yeah,
But also,
but
I think
I
that
just sorry. I just
yeah,
see that your podcast is 0% uploaded. Do you see the same?
for me it's 99.
99. Yours shows 99.
Yeah, and
Oh, that's
yours. So
nice. Okay,
okay.
I just got frightened. Yeah, then it's no problem. But in Finland, right? Because I know Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland, we have this cooperative initiative to they don't call it officially that, but it is the new Iron Curtain. I mean, we are building out our eastern borders. We're actually putting anti-tank ditches, anti-tank like squares, and barbed wire. Poland is mining Kaliningrad. I mean, we're building a wall, like Trump would love to say. Are you doing anything like that in Finland?
Um, Not really. I think in many ways we are extremely prepared. So, and a lot of it is we don't really do any public stunts. So we don't really announce anything. Like all the aid that we give to Ukraine is basically secret and so on. We just give out the amounts and so on. So it's everything is kept very close to the chest in that sense. There has been public discussion lately about bringing back these anti-personal mines. There's this Ottawa Treaty that forbids them, and Finland joined it. I think 2014, maybe I'm not sure, 100% sure, but anyway, we are not allowed to use anti-personal mines. And we know that Russia uses them a lot. They're being used a lot in Ukraine. So there is this active discussion whether we should bring them back. And I think that we should, because it's a very effective um, weapon again when you're defending. Um, but I feel like we've been preparing for Soviet slash Russian invasion since 50s, 60s. So we have one of the biggest artilleries in Europe. It's massive artillery, and basically this is how Russia also wages war. So they use artillery a lot, basically destroying everything. We have bunkers for 5 million people, I think, or something like that. So everybody has a bunker. Everybody knows where they have to go. We have these leaflets or these books that are being given to everybody that tells you what do you need to have at your home for so you can survive for 72 hours. So you need water, you need radio with batteries, and so on. So in many ways, we are probably one of the best prepared countries in the world for war. Uh, and yeah, we are also in NATO, so that kind of gives us a pretty good additional firepower. And I think if the Russians, for some absolutely crazy reason, decided to invade the water park from hell, which is Finland, we would very quickly get assistance from our Estonian brothers and our dear friends and enemies in Sweden.
Yeah, I mean, everything you just said is another reason why people sometimes in Estonia look at me weirdly, because in Estonia, like, we haven't done this preparement. We're only 30 years old as a re-independent country in the 90s. We haven't had time to dig out all the bunkers. We haven't had the money for it. No F-65, F-35s coming to us, right? You
Mm,
order them. Thing is, people are afraid. We know we don't have these bunkers. We know we don't have an air force. We don't have tanks. We rely on NATO and like massive reserve infantry. That's all we rely on. So people are afraid of Russia and the invasion. And then knowing all I know, which is everything you just said, and Finland joining NATO and buying the F-35s, and having the massive artillery and having F-35s being able to land in a random patch of highway in the forest somewhere in eastern Finland. I mean, every road is a airport pretty much. Knowing that, I'm partying inside. Like, oh my god, our security in Estonia in the last 2 years has gotten like 100% better, and people
mm,
don't know that. And I'm like, hey, we're good, but war is going on, and people look at me like I'm this crazy. Like, what are you? Warmonger crazy person, why are you smiling? It's so
mm.
bad, nobody wants to buy real estate. And
Uh,
I'm trying to get a loan from the bank to buy one. So
yeah,
it's the opposite for me.
yeah. The thing is that you have to always kind of realize the realities. Russia is not going away for a while. Hopefully, it might become a bit smaller in the future. Let's see. But I mean, they will be there, and I don't see the kind of mentality changing for a long time as long as this kind of Siloviki leadership is there. And I think I feel like Russia tried the democratic route during the 90s and it didn't really work out. It became this oligarchy and so on. So I just feel like it's not going away. And the best thing that we can do is prepare and kind of collaborate with our allies so that if the shit hits the fan, as it has already in Ukraine, we are prepared. And I think another thing that is very crucial here, I think Sweden also has a pretty good navy, right? Like submarines and so
Hmm.
on. So for the if we talk about the NATO lake over there, the Baltic region, it's also in good hands, I would say, right now.
Yeah, I'm not sure about naval mining. That hasn't been banned, I think. And I've heard like there's a coalition of NATO like countries pretty much. They have this secret agreement that if any kind of invasion comes from Russia, they immediately blockade the Finnish Gulf.
Mm,
All until up until St. Petersburg and force the ships into the port, Russian ships, because like
mm,
Estonia now has anti-ship missiles, which have the range of like 300 kilometers straight to St. Petersburg and forward. They're modern, they're very precise. Of course, I mean, Russia has like tens of thousands of tanks. Yeah, they can roll over our eastern border, and then we have to start picking them off one by one. But with
mm,
one push of a button, we can destroy their entire Baltic Sea, Baltic fleet. So the invasion, they can do it, and they will gain some ground. But we have made sure it's so expensive for them. The entire fleet goes, military targets in St. Petersburg around it, they go. and the Finnish might want to get back some 11% they lost like 100 years ago.
I'm not sure about that. I mean,
Yeah,
it is, but I think it could be a good chance for the Japanese because they never officially. I don't think there's. I think isn't Russia aren't Russia and Japan still at war? There is not like an official uh, treaty, and
really.
I think so. I don't want to lie. I don't want to.
We're
But
getting a massive amount of hate comments now. It's like, how do you know
it's
this?
it's misinformation if I say, but because I'm not sure. But I
Yeah,
think they never had like official treaty. And there's this. Is it Kuril Islands
Kuril
or
Islands.
yeah? So I think Russians are still occupying those islands. But I was listening to this book by a Finnish journalist, Arja Paananen, and she made a very interesting remark in the book that those regions that Russia has kind of occupied from other countries, they don't really do any infrastructure projects. So they are literal shitholes still. So they don't really invest any money because maybe they still have this kind of thinking that what if we lose the region? So why put money there? Why build infrastructure and so on? So that's why I'm a little bit afraid of Ukraine becoming if well Ukraine still has a good chance of winning the war, but if Russia gets gets their way, uh, Russia will I think they will keep this kind of the infrastructure in the captured regions very low level, so they won't invest in these regions, I think, except for their Potemkin village, Mariupol, which they're really trying to push. So have you heard today these days Russian influencers are allegedly being paid to go and make some videos in Mariupol so that you can show it that it's like this becoming this new model city, like
I
they
saw
did.
I saw like half a year ago I saw videos. I think it was like this fake Putin visiting Mariupol, and he
Mm.
went to one of the apartments. Like camera was following him. It's so funny because they actually released it. Like they didn't stop it. Camera following Putin going, opening a door, newly built apartment, and you know when there's a massive water leakage and the paint is still fresh, so the water leakage makes this paint bubble filled with water on the ceiling. It was massive. It was not small. It
Oh, I
was like
missed that.
15, 20 liters, like on the ceiling of water dripping from this paint water bubble. And Putin opens, he's like, oh, and closes it. It's all screwed up, and they left it in. I don't. It was so funny. I gotta laugh. Yeah.
And they had all these nice drone videos of the new buildings, and then everything around it is just completely destroyed and demolished. So it's so sad. I mean, this. But yeah, I think they did this with Grozny in after the Second Chechen War. They really put a lot of money in these efforts to rebuild Grozny, and it looks really nice in this kind of central regions. But of course, if you go outside Grozny, it's another shithole, uh, Chechnya. So I mean, all the money is being invested into this kind of cities that want to become, they want to create into this kind of showcase regions that okay, we invaded this. Like very um, simplistic, very primitive city and create it into this thriving metropolitan. So it's kind of like this propaganda, but by architecture and so on. So, but it's yeah, that's what Russia also does.
Yeah, so Tucker Carlson's of the West can visit the Moscow subway station and say that, oh, all subway stations in Russia are like it. I mean, go 30 kilometers outside, visit the mud roads and outhouses. There's no water, plumbing, and nothing. I just saw a video today, actually. In every winter in Russia, it's a happy party time for me because as a military blogger using videos, it's a lot of videos of shit flying around in Moscow, like in Russian cities, because the water piping is not maintained, they burst, and it's literal brown shit water flying all over, and it's minus 10, minus 15, so it freezes immediately. At the beginning, it's super hot, so people actually get burns and go to the hospital, and then it's super cold and it freezes, so you have frozen shits all over. But at this video, like the first one this year I saw, it was I don't remember which city, but it formed these kind of beautiful like stalactite, these shit
Yeah,
mountains
yeah,
across the
yeah.
pipes, brown like structures, and I was like, wow, nature is doing miracles here. It
Yeah.
was like shit structures everywhere. It was so funny.
Christmas decorations. And once it melts,
Yeah,
it becomes even nicer. Yeah. And the kids can go and slide
popsicles.
down. Yeah, yeah. Eat popsicles. Oh, yeah.
Yellow snow, that's the past. In Russia we have brown snow.
Yeah. But
But I mean,
I think one of the most entertaining thing is still watching all the videos coming out from Russia. All this like all the whole infrastructure is just failing, and there's like and all these like requests coming from for Putin. Like, can maybe we can have one toilet for the whole town because we have nothing, and we'll get all these brown popsicles in the background. And I mean, even though it's extremely tragic also, but it's funny.
I mean, that's what I do. I try to find humor in these videos, and even the worst situations, and try to like find humor in. It's my style, because it helps me personally, mentally also. Because otherwise, it's just too dark, and it's really fun to laugh about this stuff. And I'm not like saying, "Oh, look at Russia, shitty country." Like we have the same issue because we're Estonia. I mean, every pipe, almost like 90% of underground piping, is done by the Soviets in Estonia. It's all breaking down. What we are investing in is digging it all up, repairing it. It's super expensive, super time consuming. I mean, in Tallinn, in my home, around it, all the streets dig up. They're fixing the pipes. They're putting in new plastic Euro pipes. Such a mess. You cannot drive anywhere with your car. Everybody's mad about the government. Like, wow, why are you digging it up for like half a year? But that's the price of new working pipelines, which don't burst in your face. That's the price of every 50 years you got to dig them up and invest like hundreds of thousands per square meter to just replace them. Russia doesn't do it.
Mm,
Like we do it right now. We're paying the price. Like I'm late to work 10 minutes because the traffic is worse because everything is dig up, and they're replacing them. I mean, but I have working toilets. I have hot and cold water. I mean, that's the price we're paying. But we have the same situation. I just want to tell the people who are watching that Russia and Estonia, we have the same pipes on the ground. It's two different maintenance cycles only.
mm. Yeah, I think Finland still uses for rails. I think we still use the kind of Soviet system. I'm not sure, but I think we are not compatible with the EU still. So I mean, and most of the nuclear plants, all the technology came from Russia, and I'm not sure where we get the technology from now on, but they built most of the stuff for our. I mean, even after the Chernobyl, we still relied on their technology, but I guess it's better now. But I mean, we did
Why?
hope. I don't know. I have to ask the politicians. Um, but like we had a lot of business with Russians. Russia was our main business partner, but and probably same for the Baltic countries. But I think our dedication is shown in a way how we have kind of just stopped. We stopped doing business with Russia. There's still some critical raw material stuff and so on, and probably for like energy related stuff also to some countries in Europe. But I would imagine that Finland and Estonia have been the countries that actually did something like, okay, fuck this. I'm not gonna. Sorry, can I swear? Is this? Uh,
I think so. Yeah.
okay, well, yeah, but I mean, like, let's not do anything with Russia anymore, and that's it. But then there are countries like Italy, where basically none of the companies left Russia. They are still there. Like you can get all this high fashion clothing in St. Petersburg and Moscow and so on, perfumes and so I feel like there are some countries that just do what they say they will do, and then there are some countries that they say that they okay, we support Ukraine until the end, but then they keep doing the business, and it's business as usual. So that's kind of disappointing to me.
Yeah, personally, it's really hard to see that also. And you mentioned the railway gauge, or I don't know how to say this word, but like the width of the tracks. I mean,
Mm,
Finland, I think, has Saris, there are tracks like the width. Estonia also has, Latvia, Lithuania also, because it's so damn expensive to change to European ones. It's different
mm,
width, and it's the price of that. We're talking like three countries combined. It's tens, if not close to 100 billion. Like we don't have that money.
uh,
What we are doing right now in February, though, also very painful for us, but we're doing just, I'm just talking about it to show that we are taking the pain and making the decisions to move away from Russia. We're disconnecting Estonia from Russian electrical infrastructure, like, period, like connecting to European Union, disconnecting from Russia. What it means for us, like, Estonia is not energy independent. We do have coal, like black coal. We make a lot of energy from that, but European Union, the Green Movement, all of that, like, we gotta shut them down, unfortunately. So for us to do this situation, disconnect from Russia is very dangerous. We're not energy independent, and we're disconnecting from the closest, most best provider of electricity. There's gonna be a lot of unknown after that, and electricity is gonna be more expensive. And who's gonna pay? Estonian people who earn minimum wage, and we are doing it.
mm.
Just to illustrate, not energy independent. We don't have excess money in Estonia. We're kind of screwed with the budget actually this year, and we're still going forward with this. So knowing this, being one of the taxpayers paying for this decision for Ukraine and for Estonia, it's really painful to see again, yeah, Italy, who is still exporting luxury cars and bags to Moscow. Like, I can't understand it, and it pisses me off.
Yeah, they are enabling the war in so many ways. It's the money flowing in to Russia, but also keeping these wealthy people comfortable in the big cities like Moscow and St. Petersburg, so they can continue living their life just normal, basically. When many of their compatriots and Ukrainians have to fight for their lives in this kind of really barbaric and horrendous war, and the Russian style of just sending masses of troops to the front and everybody getting slaughtered is just crazy. And but yeah, like I think I have criticized Meloni before about her speeches. Like they are very passionate, like we will support Ukraine until the end and fuck Russia and so on. But then when you look at the actions, they don't really contribute that much of military or humanitarian aid to Ukraine. I don't think it's not substantial. And then yeah, the business. So it's yeah, and there's also quite a big diaspora of Russians in Italy also, and they have all these organizations, and so I'm not very happy about Italy, to be honest. And yeah, this is the first time I say it publicly, but yeah, that's the way I see it.
Yeah, um, but I mean, I'll bring in kind of a dangerous topic, Donald Trump. Do, do, do. But the thing is, like, I'm not the biggest fan. I like to think about myself as a man who controls his emotions, controls his impulses, thinks about before I speak, everything opposite of Trump, right? So I'm not a big fan of his mannerisms. But what he has done, and I have to admit, I don't like him, but I have to admit he has, like, gotten the same effect that I would love to see happening in Europe. He has frightened the European leaders to put more money into defense, because he has frightened that US will pull out of NATO. We will not, weaponize or defense Europe anymore. You gotta pay your own bills, and that frightens Europeans so much that the leaders actually start, like, adding an extra percentage to the defense bill, which is required by NATO anyway. So I'm glad about it, although I don't like Trump. But this effect is so necessary for Estonia, because we're paying almost 4% to defense.
Mm.
Poland is close to 5, and then we got, like, countries who are like 1.3, 1.4. I mean, Trump is smashing people with the hammers, and European leaders are reacting. So, how do you feel all about this?
Uh, I think it's good. I think it's really good. I think all countries should contribute if we want to kind of have a response to a threat of authoritarian states, and I mean threat of war in Europe. But I also kind of understand why Spain doesn't really feel threatened about Russia, or I mean, they're just all the way on the other side of the whole continent, and it's this kind of thinking like their economy is quite shit already. So kind of putting extra money into military, it might seem like okay, the citizens will revolt and they will resist this kind of decisions. But I agree, I fully agree with Trump that every NATO nation should follow the rules, like 2%. It's not that much. It's okay. And it provides each country a pretty credible defense. So yeah, I mean, I'm not a Trump fan either, but sometimes he says things that make sense, and I think this is one of those things. And I think we are already over 2%, so I can say that yeah, I fully support it because we already did it.
Yeah, I mean, what a coincidence that all Northern and Eastern European countries next to Russia are close to 3%, and all countries away are like close to one, more than three. And I mean, Poland is a juggernaut. They're buying everything that anybody sells to them. They're buying from South Korea, Germany, and United States, and almost everything they can get their hands on. They're
Mm.
not getting ready to defense against Moscow. I think they're getting ready to take Moscow for the second time.
Just go all in. Uh, it's like fuck the nukes. Let's just go. Uh, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, the wing hussars come back, and yeah.
I think how many HIMARS they bought? Like 250. It's a crazy amount of HIMARS. Uh, and
And I mean,
like,
they don't have the money. Where I don't know where they get the money. I think they loan it because they don't have it in their budget. Like, no
yeah.
way.
But I read somewhere a long time ago, again, I hope I'm not wrong, that they gave a lot of old equipment to Ukraine, most of their old equipment, and now they're kind of replacing it with some funding coming from maybe from EU partly, but I don't know. They are really modernizing their army, and I think they are. It's. I think it's interesting that they are not invited to these big meetings where you have France and the UK or well France,
Yeah.
Germany, and they should be there. They should be at the big tables because they are a force to be reckoned with right now. So they should definitely be there.
I mean, the war cries of the past is like, I don't know in Finland what they are. I watched I watched the movie The Unknown Soldiers, Tuntematon sotilas.
Mm.
It was like one of the best war movies I ever seen in my life. It's unbelievable movie, and there's Neljas etänpää, something like that. I always still say it with my friends. Well, the future war cry of Europe for the victors is going to be kurva popper, the
That's-
Polish
yeah.
Polish cry. But I
Uh,
mean, yeah, I think Poland is going to be for the next like generation or two. They're going to be the leading regional powerhouse in economy and in military wise. I mean, they're going to
mm,
shape like it was Germany, France, and Britain in EU, but UK left the EU. Germany is kind of screwed with the economy right now, and France. I don't know much about France, but Poland is on the rise military wise. They're on the rise economy wise. Belarus is afraid of them. Ukraine is, if Ukraine will be in NATO or in the EU in the future, those two countries and their, let's call it sisterhood, because there's three Slavic sisters, that's gonna be like the center. And I'm not sure Germany wants that center of power to shift away from Germany to
mm,
Poland, because it
mm.
will.
Yeah, yeah, but I think everybody has been shitting on Germany for a while now, but to be fair, they have provided a lot of aid to Ukraine. I think that's something. I mean, it's kind of Scholz is the embodiment of appeasement and this kind of like negotiation, and he's where I think he's one of the weakest leaders we have seen in a long time in Europe. But Germany has done a lot for Ukraine. That I think that's something like, for example, I think France has given a lot less, and we kind of because Macron says these cool things like we will do whatever it takes and so on. He's this kind of stronger leader who can use this strong rhetoric. People think that okay, France is full on like with the alliance and with the support, but it's actually Germany that's given the most support in to Ukraine in Europe, I think, when you consider the amount. Of course, Estonia is there with your GDP percentage and what but still, and Finland is it's not at the like top five, but we I think there's also something that we don't announce, so maybe we are also one of the top dogs. I don't know.
I mean, for some reason, nobody has any like thoughts that Finland is not behind Ukraine. Like, even if the numbers show, somehow the Finnish, like the winter war and the attitude of the Finnish, and the like, we don't talk about it, but we're ready, perkele. Like that
Mm,
attitude, Europeans know and the world know. Like, you don't mess with the Finnish. Like they help Ukraine and they're ready.
mm,
But the thing is, yeah, I am like Estonia, so small, not much numbers, not much money, but we're like these small Claffin Pomeranians, so proud about, oh, percentage wise we're leading in supporting Ukraine. Hey, that's all we have. We gotta
mm.
have something.
Yeah, but it's massive. It's still massive aid that you have provided, and
Um,
it's I think I heard that you even had to raise taxes to kind of provide this aid to Ukraine, and that is I think that's dedication.
People don't like it at all. People are really angry
Yeah,
at
yeah,
this.
that's what I heard.
Um,
But it's
yeah,
because people don't. I think usually people have this very small sphere where they live in. It's like, okay,
mm,
how much do pay for gas? How much are my
yeah.
groceries? How much is my rent? And that's basically what they think about. And is my family healthy? And so on. Do I have a job? Uh, and the war is somewhere out there. For most people, it's out there. And even after 1,000 days, most people don't really care about the war anymore. That's the harsh truth. They care about the price of eggs, they care about the price of gas, the price of energy, and if there is some narrative that kind of supports or tells them that it could be otherwise, it could be cheaper. It could be cheaper if we get energy from Russia or whatever the narrative is. They might support it because these are the things that affect their lives. But also, what they kind of disregard or ignore is that because of the war, things are so expensive. Because Russia decided to invade Ukraine, there will probably be a shortage of wheat around the world. And of course, large war in Europe will affect prices. It will affect inflation and so on. So it's kind of some people don't see the connection between this war and other wars and how it affects the pricing. And I think Americans they will have a rude awakening with Trump's presidency. This is a completely different thing. I'm just kind of, but with these tariffs that are coming in, because they will all increase the prices further. I've been rambling for a long time. Maybe one more thing, real quick, and then I'll take a breather. I was just this morning. I watched a video of a German who lives in the US, and she went to the cheapest market. I think it was Walmart in the US, and showed some of the prices, and they were more expensive than in Finland. US grocery store had more expensive prices than in Finland, so something has really happened there, and it's because I always thought that the US is the groceries in the US are much cheaper than they are in whole of
They have
Europe.
been, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe not France, maybe not Germany, but definitely cheaper than Finland. And somebody in the comments said that this is more expensive than Switzerland. So I don't know. Maybe this could be an explaining factor of why Trump actually won the presidency, is because the prices are getting ridiculous there.
It's the same in Estonia because we had the highest inflation in the European Union as a country. Unfortunately, like our economy is, we don't have much working for us. I mean, we have coal, but coal is super unpopular right now. If it would not be unpopular, we would have energy independent and we could even export it. But since it's European Union green thinking, we cannot do anything with it. taking away our like only kind of resource we have. We don't have much. So we had the biggest inflation when the war started, full scale, 25% at that, at which in European Union, 25% inflation. Can you imagine it? But we had it.
Mm,
So the price increases were so big that, the like one of the biggest change in Estonia is Prisma, which is Finnish, right?
mm.
Prisma is like this
Prisma,
for
yeah,
the viewers. It's,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's like this big Finnish grocery and everything else you can buy chain. And before the full-scale invasion, Estonians viewed this as this big shot Finnish store, super expensive. Not many people want to go because it's expensive. It's Finnish prices. Well, now it's cheapest in Estonia,
Oh,
and it's still Finnish price, but it's cheapest. Everything else has gotten so expensive, especially the Estonian store. So we're not a rich country. Our people are not rich at all. We are really taking the blunt of the hit of the European Union's economy going down, and it's painful. People are very angry. They're electing politicians who promise to fix it. Just to give to the viewers the illustration that like we're not fine here. We're like suffering really bad. So if people are suffering elsewhere, like here also. But for us, there's no option not to be defensive, like not to put money into military and not to think in the scale that this war is our war, because like people in Spain can think this. Okay, the prices are high. I'm gonna elect this guy who takes money away from the military. We cannot do that. No option.
yeah, and it's happening all over Europe. It's because of the situation. The EU is suffering. Germany, the powerhouse of EU, is suffering a lot. I'm not sure what's going to happen because so they got the cheap energy from Russia, and they have
Mm.
the trade with China. So with Trump. Not sure what's going to happen there with China because I don't think Germany can afford to lose China too. So that's basically it's a big hit. And if Germany is not doing very well, other countries in the EU will follow. That's basically how it is because we are in this common union. So yeah, Finland will have also in the following years there will be a lot of unemployment. A lot of factories will well, a lot of companies will go bankrupt. And we even had COVID before. That was a really big hit to all economies around Europe. And now the war is continuation of that. So yeah, it's the same. I think it sounds kind of dire in Estonia, to be honest. I think we are not in that deep of a shit yet. We might join you in in the next few years. But yeah, it's still, I think Europe will have some hard times in the near future. But this is something that also people are not prepared for. In general, people are not used to losing something. If they have gained some benefits, they are not ready to lose them. So if you tell somebody, okay, you will have you will have reducted pay in the future, they will go nuts. I mean, or you will have to give out the second car. As like losing something, we have been kind of cuddled into this uh, very positive economic outcomes that basically losing something is out of the question. But if there is like, if you think about what happened during World War II, I mean, all the massive losses and destruction of cities, and we still rebuilt that and became even stronger after that. So I think you also have to kind of stay positive in that regard.
That is one of the main difference between people's mindsets and what they're used to in the West and in Russia. Because in Russia, it's the mentality is super different. It's hard to understand in the West because a mediocre Russian person who works in Russia always has known internally, like it's in the back of his head, that everything I have right now, it can change at any moment and I can lose it, and I will still not go onto the street to change my situation or protest. I will just go on because that's how it is. That's being a Russian in Russia, is there's always somebody upstairs who can take it all away and I can do nothing about it. So it's the same mentality as in the Tsarist Russia when you were serf or a slave. It's the same. It hasn't changed. And people in the West who have changed after like the French Revolution and the awakening of self as a citizen with rights, they didn't have that in Russia. They still don't. So it's very hard for us to understand how 130 million people cannot have this self-aware of a citizen that I am responsible for my country. I can change it. They don't have it. It's if it goes all down in the shithole, that's how it is. We're gonna live there nice and cozy all together, but they're not gonna change it. It's super hard to understand for Westerners, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I think this kind of the level of suffering they are ready to take is incredible. This concept of narodnost, of the people of Russia, they are only serving the Tsar at the top, and he knows everything. Putin is never wrong, and so on. It's very deeply engraved to the Soviet and Russian minds, I think. And also like this idea of you don't own anything, anything can be taken away from you at any time. I think it was very evident when Putin started kind of putting the oligarchs under control. So during the 90s, the oligarchs became extremely rich and powerful, and then Putin came and then sat them down, and it's like, okay, you sign this, and we own you. You don't. The Kremlin owns you, and you don't own the Kremlin. Basically, telling all this the richest people in Russia this, and then you have somebody who kind of objects like Khodorkovsky, and then you just throw them in prison for I don't know how long, maybe 7 years, 8 years, and yeah, so it's this kind of mentality is very strong there still, and yeah, it's very different from European. You own a house in Finland, and you own a house of Finland, and that's it. There's nobody who will take it away from you unless you lose all your money in gambling.
Unless you're a Russian Federation who owns a lot of real estate in Finland, then they need, like, the European Union issues a warrant to take all that and send it to Ukraine because of a 10-year ongoing lawsuit that
Yeah,
happened recently, right?
yeah, but to be fair, I think there's a reason why these rich Russian businessmen buy all this real estate close to critical infrastructure and airports and military bases. And it's like, okay, I just love this lake here by the military base. That's the reason why I bought it. Or just it's this real estate in the middle of nowhere with helicopter pads and whatever. It's a little bit suspicious. So I think they have a kind of a idea behind this, why they are doing this confiscations of real estate from the Russian
I was so
businessmen.
glad to. I'm so glad to see that, like, the Finnish government did it. Like, the International Criminal Court actually came out with this solution. Like, Crimea was occupied, the oil platforms, and then the Ukrainian oil company, right, demanded that we need, like, this kind of money from Russia as reparations, and the ICC now 10 years later gave the order to actually confiscate Russian assets in Europe, and Finland was like, boom, we're gonna do it. And like, your government, I think, sent like 100 million or something like that from the selling of these assets to the company of Ukraine.
Yeah, yeah, and I think they halted all real estate purchases coming from Russia now. So no
Oh,
Russians. So I think there was this kind of limitation, and I think it's not permanent, but for some time. So they are taking this threat seriously, and we have had some. I think we have had some drone incidents. So drones have been flying around critical infrastructure. I think there's probably much more than we hear about. I mean, probably the Finnish defense forces or intelligence agencies are aware what's happening in the Finnish aerospace. Also, we had this incidents of breaking into water towers. I think they're also in Sweden. Uh, I'm not sure if they are related to Russia, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were. So I think there has been some articles suggesting that Russia has been looking into poisoning water sources, I think in Germany at least, near a NATO base. So these kind of sabotage hybrid operations will probably ramp up in the following years.
mm. Well, it has been an amazing discussion with you. For the ending, I just got this idea. Do you still have, like, these old grandfathers in Finland who sing like these winter war era songs like Niet Molotov, Niet Molotov, da 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 da. You know this song?
No, but I've heard the song. I don't know this. I don't know this song, particular song. I know some songs. There was this Finnish war legend. Forgot his name, but I think he in one interview said that war was really, it was brutal. It was really really cruel. But we had some funny moments, like the time when we sled down a hill with a frozen Russian buddy. So,
Oh my god,
and I
that's
think
a
this,
very good.
I think that's a real quote. Uh,
That's a
you can
nice segue
crucify
to the
me
end.
if it's not. So I'm not gonna sing. I think I'm gonna save everybody's ears. But I think that that story is a good way to conclude this just
Oh
amazing
yeah.
chat. It's been fun.
Yeah, yeah, really, really fun. Thank you for the time. Thank you for your insights, and we can do it again after a few months if you're okay with
All
it.
right, and then maybe next time we talk more about Vatniks and how they operate because we kind of brushed over that the first 2 minutes and then went on to other stuff. But that's the way I like it. This is really fun.
Yeah, and everybody check out Vatnik Soup and Pekka Kallioniemi X account is in the description below. Go and check it out. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next podcast. Bye bye.
Aitäh!